Torbran, Thane of Redfell versus the Locust God. We have land, so we'll keep that. It's a pretty slow hand, but we may get into more card draw with the Locust God. The Locust God does want to wheel. They might resist wheeling against a burn deck, though. We'll just drop into a mountain and pass the turn, drawing into another 3-drop, so preferably want to get into some ramp sooner rather than later. We've got a low curve on this deck, as we do in most of our 1 versus 1 decks. Few people voiced concern over a Torbran build that they saw on the channel. I think it was a multiplayer game. I've played Torbran a couple of times now, and I've yet to see him really do much of anything. But I've play tested this deck a lot, and I'm very much liking it, so hopefully we can show some of that off today. Alright, there's the Mind Stone. Gives us something to do on turn 2. We could actually go in for our commander next turn, although I'd be more tempted to go for Sulfuric Vortex, or maybe even Chandra to get Summoning Sickness off of her. If we play her, and then our commander next turn, she can Lightning Bolt our opponent, and then flip over into a Planeswalker. Alright, Grim Monolith, and a Star Compass is held up. Oh, the Star Compass actually can't tap for anything, can it? Because our opponent doesn't have a basic. So yeah, let's go for the Chandra line of play. Our opponent just letting us know that they're a friend of the channel. Zephyr9. And they're not having the best of luck with their mana. They've got a hell of a lot of colourless. So hopefully we'll see them get into something more than their colourless mana. We'll go for our commander. Might as well deal 1 damage to our opponent in response to that. And then Chandra will untap. And even if our opponent deals with Torbran, we could just swing in at our opponent for 2 damage. In fact, swinging in for 2 damage deals... yeah, we might as well go for an attack, because that is more damage than just tapping and pinging our opponent. And Torbran does count with attacks as well. It's just a red source dealing damage. It's not necessarily just lightning bolts and shocks and things like that. We're actually quite enchantment based in this deck, so that we can get lots of recursion on damage going with things like Sulfuric Vortex. Chandra dealt more than 3 damage there. If she has dealt more than 3 damage this turn, exile her, then return her to the battlefield under her owner's control. I have no idea why that didn't work. We'll try again next turn. It might have to be the tap ability. Our opponent getting into the coloured mana they need with the island and going for Locust God. We can actually quite easily get rid of Locust God with a Volcanic Fallout. I just want to see what's happening with this Chandra first of all. We'll tap her down. That'll Lightning Bolt our opponent. And there we go. Okay, so clearly you have to tap her in order to have that happen. But it doesn't specify the tap ability for the damage. Anyway, not to worry. We can deal 2 damage to a creature. So I think we go for the Flame Slash onto the Locust God. And that does go into the graveyard. Our opponent has changed the zones, so they'll get that back into their hand at the end step. And then we'll go Sulfuric Vortex and we'll swing in with Torbran. Sulfuric Vortex is going to deal a hell of a lot of damage over the course of the game. And the Locust God does trigger, so that goes back into our opponent's hand. That's good. And out comes the Locust God again. We can actually deal with that with Volcanic Fallout. This is an instant. And then a Flame Slash onto Torbran. So let's just respond with the Volcanic Fallout. That's going to be 2 damage to each creature and to each player. But it'll actually be 4 damage to our opponent and 4 damage to the Locust God. Then our Torbran goes down. We can get that out again next turn, and we probably will, to keep piling on damage with Chandra and the Sulfuric Vortex. So I think we've got the win here. The Vortex only deals 2 damage to us, even if our commander is in play. We can get down Thran Dynamo first, might as well get some spare mana. And then go in for our commander. And then we plus on this Chandra, and that will deal 4 damage to our opponent. And then they'll take another 4 from the Sulfuric Vortex, and I can't see them getting out from under this. And our opponent decides to scoop it up, which is fair enough. They were a bit stuck on mana at first, but they did get a lot of mana going in Warm Power Stone and Grim Monolith and all the rest of it. And they did get into their colours eventually, so I think that was a fair matchup. But it was a short one, as Torbran games tend to be, so let's get another one going. Torbran, Thane of Redfell versus Reki, the History of Kamigawa. Not too thrilled with this hand, but if I mulligan, we're not going to get into any mana, so we will keep that. We'll just have to make do with a slow start and hope that the mono green player doesn't get into a load of ramp. Getting into a Birds of Paradise. But we can wipe that out with Volcanic Fallout, so yeah, that's something to do on turn 3. A turn 2 commander from our opponent. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, draw a card. We have 0 to do on turn 2, so we'll get down this Lightning Greaves. And I think we're going for Volcanic Fallout next turn. A Marwyn the Nurturer will definitely want to do that before that thing gets too big. Well, they've got their first elf down. Then swinging in at us for our first point of commander damage. We get into our third red source, which is really good. That's exactly what we need. Volcanic Fallout. Does our opponent have a Yever? Yeah, I want to hold on to the Volcanic Fallout and try and get some value off of my opponent. But if they've got a Yever, then the Marwyn will survive. So we'll just go for Volcanic Fallout, just to play it safe. Hopefully won't be seeing our opponent's commander for a little while now. Going for Nature's Claim onto our Lightning Greaves. And get into another mountain as well. We would have absolutely equipped the Lightning Greaves. Nevertheless, we will go in for our commander. Plenty of removal for creatures in green now, so hopefully we don't see that from our opponent. Although with a Gauntlet of Power, we shouldn't struggle recasting our commander again. It all depends on how much artifact removal this green deck is running. Nissa Vastwood Seer will get them into a land, which they play immediately. Then there's a Magus of the Wheel. I think we just go in for the Gauntlet of Power to try and set up a bunch of mana for next turn. It'll also give our Torbran a +1/+1 buff. So we'll deal 5 damage to our opponent here. Doesn't look like they're drawing into the lands they need to get their commander back into play. But they are going to use Garruk to go for a Sylvan Scrying onto a land. Now our opponent can either lose their Nissa, which is a potential Planeswalker, or lose Garruk next turn. They're going for the Windswept Heath, so that's curious. They want a fetch in the bin. They might have Ramunap and Azusa. Oh, and then we've just got a hell of a lot of mana now. Let's play out the Mana Crypt. Each of these taps for 2 mana, so that's 8, 10 and 11. We'll see if we can grab anything off of the Combustible Gear Hulk. They just give us the card draw, which I'm not going to complain about. We'll drop a Mountain. Rampaging Ferocidon. And then instead of the Fire Diamond, we'll go for Magus of the Wheel as well. And that will deal 1 damage to us. But the Rampaging Ferocidon will actually deal 3 damage to our opponent. Swinging at Garruk and try and take him out. But deciding to let Nissa go in front of that instead. Now if our opponent wants to play some creatures, they're going to be dealt some damage by our Rampaging Ferocidon here. And I'll hammer its Archive. Well, we've got an answer for that. I don't think they've used Garruk's ability yet either. Untapping some lands. We'll definitely Vandal Blast on the archive. Green does have means of drawing lots of cards, but they need creatures in play in order to do it, and if we can keep those out of play, then that should see us through okay. We'll just swing in here because I think we've got the win if we connect with our opponent. We will not swing in with the Magus of the Wheel. Okay, knocking them down to 1. Perhaps should have gone in with Magus of the Wheel, but we've got the Goblin Chain Whirler to deal the last point of damage anyway. Knocking Garrett down to 2 and our opponent down to -2. That's exactly how we want to run this deck. Magus of the Wheel, if we'd gone for that, would have drawn us into 7 cards. And yeah, we were just getting into way more burn. If you get into Gauntlet of Power or any kind of mana doubler in this deck, then there's not a whole lot your opponents can do to stop it, because it does get really good, especially when combined with card draw, which red doesn't necessarily do all that often, but when it does, it's very difficult to stop, as we showed here. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.